Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Brittnee and today I have another bonbon design tutorial for you. I figured I had to do at least one Valentine's Day themed design before the holiday comes and goes, so that's what we'll do today. Today's design was me experimenting with layering colors. I used edible luster dust along with some translucent colors and was just playing around with how they look on top of each other. The way that the colors are applied and how they end up looking on the chocolate kind of reminds me a little bit of watercolor paints because the technique that you use is where you use an airbrush or a spray gun to blow air into the mold and move the colors around. So there are some thicker spots and some thinner spots. I think the final bonbons turned out really bright and pretty, and the process of making them is really fun. You guys will have to let me know how you think they turned out also. There are so many combinations of colors and ways that you can apply the cocoa butter with the air that you can get really creative and make some unique designs using this method. So let's get going. Here are the supplies that you'll need. A pink, red, and magenta cocoa butter. I used the pre-colored cocoa butters Princess Pink from Chef Rubber and Pink Flambe from Pastry Chef's Boutique. And then I mixed my own red using Roxy Enriched powder and edible gold cocoa butter. I made my own using my new favorite edible luster dust from Genere Cakes. To make this, I used the exact same method and proportions that I would if I were mixing my own color using powders. Watch my tutorial in this card or linked in the description. Just a couple decorating tools today. I'm using some mini sponge brushes, the shape doesn't matter too much, and then a medium round paintbrush. This classic heart mold from Chocolate World. I'll link the exact one down below, of course. You'll need a full airbrush setup for at least part of the design. If you'd like more information on my whole system, check out this video. And then all of your other important chocolate supplies like parchment paper, a heat gun, scrapers, a good thermometer, plus a filling and chocolate of your choice. Today I'm using Calibut milk chocolate. So before I start decorating, I like to make sure that I have all of the cocoa butters that I'm using out and ready to go. If there are any that aren't yet prepared in some way, I like to just get them ready. Because the gold cocoa butter will be the first one that I apply into the mold, I'm going to get that one heated up first. This begins the tempering process, and while it cools, I will prepare my pink and red colors. So to heat up the gold cocoa butter, I am using my heat gun. I am not putting this one in the microwave because it contains edible gold luster dust. Now, I've read about heating luster dusts in the microwave, and I think that some can be safe. For example, I read on Bakel's website that theirs is microwave safe. However, many companies probably haven't tested their lusters for the microwave, assuming that you are either dusting with it or creating a paint with it. For me, I'd rather be safe and just use the heat gun or other warming methods like hot water, heat plate, or warming cabinet. Some edible gold lusters could contain edible gold leaf, and that is definitely not microwave safe. So because I made this cocoa butter myself using the Genere Cakes Dazzle Dust, I am heating it up with my heat gun. With that being said, companies like Chef Rubber, who have lines like their jewel and pearl collections that contain glitters, lusters, and metallics, I'm sure they've been tested and approved, and all of their instructions for warming their cocoa butters up are the same, whether they're just regular colors or shimmery. So I feel fine to use a microwave for theirs because they know their ingredients. But for any of the cocoa butters that I add my own luster dust or glitter to, I always heat up using the heat gun. So once my gold reaches around 40 to 45 degrees Celsius, I set it aside to begin cooling. If you don't know how to temper cocoa butter yet, check out the video in this card or linked below. Next, I'm simply going to move my magenta color from its original packaging into my reusable plastic containers with a lid. These containers are so much easier to work with, in my opinion. They are great for storage, but also I love tempering in them because they allow you to stir the cocoa butter in between heating. For my last color, which is red, I'm using Roxy Enriched powder, and that's because their colors are translucent. The red I often use from Chef Rubber is opaque, but for this design I am layering and I actually want the colors to be somewhat transparent. So I just quickly mix a small batch of red cocoa butter here. And if you don't know how to mix your own cocoa butter colors with powder yet, check out my video linked below. All right, now for the fun part, decorating the mold. Of course, I'm using a clean and shined mold, and I'm using my little heart sponge brush. The shape here doesn't matter. I just wanted something small that I could control where I'm putting the cocoa butter with inside the cavity. The look I was envisioning for the gold part of this design was uneven and almost rustic or brushed. I wanted to use it to kind of highlight a couple spots of the heart, so I just experimented as I applied it with brushing or dabbing small amounts along the edge of the cavity and then adding a little bit down into the mold as well. I didn't want the gold to overpower the rest of the design, so I stuck to the left top part of every heart so that they were all uniform. After every row or two, be sure to clean the surface of your mold by wiping it against a paper towel. Next up is this pretty pinkish magenta color. Just to remind you, this color is also translucent, meaning that it doesn't contain white, and so you will see a bit of any color placed behind it. To apply the decoration, I use a medium round paintbrush and just squiggle the cocoa butter down into the mold. You'll see that I mostly covered the whole cavity, but like sloppily and uneven, which is what you want to do. Because then you take your airbrush with nothing in it and blow air out to manipulate the cocoa butter and move it around to create a cool pattern. I left it splotchy so that some parts were thicker than others. The thicker the color left on the mold, the less you'll see the colors applied after. So having the different thickness and patterns that are created with the air, you get a fun texture for the finished design. For the airbrush settings, I used 80 psi and I believe medium airflow and paint flow, but you can adjust yours once you get the feel for how you like to move the cocoa butter around. Next up is red. So I take my tempered cocoa butter and I use the same basic technique that I used for the magenta, except this time I am only applying the red to the top right of the heart, and I also do a little bit along the left edges. For the design, I wanted all the different colors and textures to be layered, but at the same time, I didn't want everything to get too mixed together and become messy looking. So that's why I focused gold on the top left, magenta all around, and red on the top right. So they kind of had their own spots, but also mixed enough to look layered and varied. And then the last step is to back all of the bonbons with lighter pink. So any spots that are thin or missing now show pink through. So you get a nice design where you're able to see each individual color, but also see them overlapping a bit with fun textures. For the last color, unless you're molding using white chocolate, you'll want it to be opaque. So this pink from Chef Rubber contains white, and now we'll block out anything behind it, which for me was needed because once I'm done spraying on my pink, I back my bonbons using tempered milk chocolate. The filling for these bonbons is a recipe that you guys have already seen on my channel, and that's a raspberry dark chocolate truffle. If you haven't seen that recipe video yet, I'll link it in the card and the description below. And then I just cap these with tempered milk chocolate, and then once again, my favorite part, the unmolding. And guys, this time I had on my mic, so enjoy a little unmolding ASMR today. All right, guys, that's today's Valentine's bonbon design. I hope that you liked the video and that you learned something new. If you did, let me know by leaving me a like and a comment down below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, today's the day. If you'd like to see more chocolate Valentine's videos, just click on one of these thumbnails. Thanks so much for watching today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.